It's the biggest show in iRacing's NASCAR stock car leagues on the biggest oval you could ever ask for. The NORC iRacing Series is live tonight from the iRacing Super Speedway. Welcome to the very virtual Massachusetts. Eric Brennan and Emerson Arden alongside this evening. And we're ready to take you flag to flag in the latest entry to what has already been an epic season of racing here in NORC Season 13. And this is the newest fight these drivers will have to face. A brand new 3-mile behemoth. Eric, thanks for joining me this evening to present round number 9 of NORC iRacing Series Season 13 from the iRacing Super Speedway. We can look down from above at the track map, and I was telling you pre-race, Eric, this track map for some reason always makes me laugh a little bit just looking at the shape, the sizing, the proportions of it all, and imagining the fact that it is 3 miles of asphalt.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Andrew. Pleasure to be back here with some NORC racing, points-paying NORC action that we're going to have here after they ran their Indy 500 last week. But as you mentioned, look at this facility. I mean, 3 miles in length. As a matter of fact, this is the kind of racetrack that you would dream up or, you know, maybe kind of build yourself when you were younger and playing in the sandbox with your toy cars. And a few years ago, Paparis, and I should say a few years ago, I want to believe it was a few years ago, but in a sim version of a stock car racing experience that was made back in 2003, had had a track very similar to this on its platform. It was such a fan favorite that the folks at iRacing elected to add it to their elective portfolio, and it is now an option and now a race on the NORC calendar with 36 degrees of banking in the corners, both through turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. A horrific, and I'm not saying that in a negative turn, I mean it quite literally, transition from the apron to the banking in those corners, and of course 10 degrees of banking on the front and back straightaways. So self-cleaning is an undertone as to what we can expect to see should somebody have a problem. But the big story here is speeds. This is not a restricted type venue. We're going to see speeds like we have not seen in a very long time here in NORC, with no history to go off of. We're not exactly sure what we're going to see here tonight, but I'm sure it's going to be something.
Yeah, of course, we all know what this track used to be, right? Of course, back on NASCAR Racing 2003 and on those older games brought out by Papyrus towards the turn of the century, but it is now in its most modern form, I suppose, here. And again, the very virtual Massachusetts we'll go with for the iRacing Super Speedway. Talking a little bit about this season so far up to this point. This is race number 9 in a season of 25. It's been a little bit since we've talked points with these drivers, but you see Daniel Falkingham leading the series by 23 points over Zoltan Herczak. David Schutt there in 3rd. Chad Oxendine comes in 4th. John Berry rounds out your top 5. Then it's a big drop-off to guys like Will Klein, Tyler Justice, Spencer Owens. Now, we haven't seen Tyler Justice in a few weeks. It's hard to say if we will again, but he's starting to slowly fall through that order, and I think in just a couple of more races, we're starting to talk about him dropping out of the top 20. That's going to move somebody else into the top 20 and somebody else into the top 12, in fact, after this evening, I would imagine here, Eric. So a lot is still going to change. Spencer Owens, Aaron Smith, Sean Williams, they can easily get a nice little run up through the top 10. And you got to look at guys like Zach Lindgren, who's got one of the better average finishes this season. Even guys like Tommy Gossett, who absolutely know how to perform, just he isn't able to make every single race. I think that's what we've seen so far this season. So certainly there are opportunities for all of these guys to shine this evening and to start working their way up.
And this is the chance, right? We've had 4 different winners so far this season. If you want to look at a variable trying to come through, or perhaps some of these drivers below that cutoff line, like a Howie Briss or a Jared Darling, who was really pumped about his chances here tonight after he ran so well before getting caught up in an accident at Daytona. This is a chance for some of these drivers, a lot of which you already mentioned, to kind of get up there, make a name for themselves, add their name to the win column, and then start a bit of a roll of momentum on their side here towards playoff time. So this is a unique opportunity. It is not the last, though, as far as super speedways from now until playoff time. As a matter of fact, there's going to be a good bit more. We're here for this 9th race of the season so far, Andrew. Then we go back to the short tracks at Iowa and Nashville, an intermediate track at Auto Club for a 100-lapper there. Then those back-to-back Talladega duels that will take us through rounds 13 and 14. Those are fan favorites for everybody, driver favorites as well. Short track at Martinsville, road course at Road America, another intermediate track at Atlanta, and then Legacy Daytona to set the playoff grid for what I think is one of the most diverse and fun playoff rounds that you will find in stock car racing on the sim that lead us to an eventual champion here in season 13.
Absolutely. A whole lot of fantastic racing to go. And we've still got places like Indianapolis, Texas, Bristol Dirt to look forward to open up the playoffs, the chase here in the NORC iRacing series. And of course, continuing on to places like Darlington, Phoenix, Chicagoland, and Las Vegas as pictured there. Qualifying starting to open up. We're going to take one quick step away before we rejoin you this evening from our coverage of the iRacing Super Speedway. Don't go anywhere. More coverage after this.
Sound Art introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home by combining the best of 2 products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. Sound Art ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Welcome back to the virtual iRacing Super Speedway. I'm not sure I really need to necessarily specify that it's the virtual iRacing Super Speedway, but regardless, we're back here this evening. Eric Bennett alongside with Emerson Arden on social media coverage. Qualifying now underway for the NORC iRacing Series in their 9th round of 25. Here's Howie Briss as he rolls down the front stretch. Now, I can't wait to take some onboards here in qualifying. Let's do so. How about with the guy that just went to the top of the board, Will Klein, who's always so good on these restrictor plates. Well, I say restrictor plate racetracks. These super speedways, a hyper speedway, if you will, according to the iRacing.com wiki. Let's take a look at telemetry. 223 miles an hour, Eric, on their own. We're going to see speeds in the draft of nearly 240 miles an hour this evening because these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars are unrestricted. It's going to be insane.
With that comes a lot of moving and jockeying for a position. I mean, you see Klein there. Just hit that apron just a little bit there, coming off forward. We talked about that in our intro, but when you're driving this track by yourself, it's similar to that of Daytona and Talladega, where it's not all that fun, even though the level of speed is there, as Klein goes faster yet with a 47.355. That'll put Klein to the top of the charts here, perhaps searching for what could be his first pole of the season. Here's Chad Oxendine going for a slide, a two-time winner on the season, most recent points winner back at Homestead Miami Speedway, trying to chase down this driver. And Daniel Falkingham, the points leader, coming into tonight's race, a race which could help perhaps make his regular season or break his regular season aspirations. And one thing I'm noticing here in qualifying is we are seeing these guys carry some strategies over from other forms of plate racing qualifying. You saw Falkingham there getting that car wound up through 3 and 4 before electing to cut down towards the bottom of the racetrack here and get right down towards that transition that could be very, very difficult to handle sometimes if you were to touch the left sides there on that yellow paint. Falkingham, the next driver to try to challenge Klein for the quick time.
And the big challenge here at the iRacing Super Speedway versus other Super Speedways, Eric, is the fact that you don't have a kind of a gradient in the apron to get up onto the racetrack. It's just straight up 0 degrees of bacon down there. That's why it looks like a wall on the left side as you go by it. So that apron up to the racetrack, that is a 36-degree difference as opposed to, say, Talladega, where you might have a 9-degree bank there on the apron right up against the racetrack. That takes 33, for example, down to 24. So it's much different. It's a very harsh transition from the apron to the racetrack and vice versa. So dropping down like that, Daniel and everybody else has to be very, very careful not to go too far. Some racetracks you can get away with just a little bit of touching that apron down there. Here, you can't do that. I also want to mention we're seeing times of 47 seconds. That is faster than if you go to Daytona or Talladega on your own in this race car right now and you're running a half mile less at those two venues. These guys turning 220s, almost up to 230 miles an hour, are running a half a mile faster. It's incredible. This racetrack, it melts the brain a little bit, twists the brain a little bit as you see Falkingham cross the line, and that's good for second place right at the end of qualifying. Can't wait to see how the entire field lines up.
We'll have a chance to see how that starting grid works here. And I think the key here is normally we see some guys like Falkingham not lay a lap down in qualifying. Well, here, because of the variable of how these cars are going to handle in a big pack here, they got to do it in practice. We're not quite sure what's going to happen when we throw the green flag for this thing. You may want to be up towards the front to try to avoid some early trouble. That may almost seem a little bit destined to happen here on a track of this magnitude. And Falkingham did what he had to do outside front row unofficially at the conclusion of that qualifying session.
Let's take a look at the full grid this evening from the iRacing Super Speedway. Round 9 of 25. Will Klein on pole at the line this time around. He takes that pole for iRacing this evening. It's a bit weird to just say iRacing, but Daniel Falkingham will start outside pole in that second spot this evening. Starting third, though, from the iRacing Super Speedway is Zach Lindgren, somebody I talked about earlier on to watch for. He's had some good runs lately, alongside another guy who's had some good runs lately and needs a good one. I saw him this past weekend. Jared Darling will start from the fourth position this evening. Brett Pancari, somebody who leads over in other leagues. I saw that today. This guy might be somebody to watch out for as he climbs the standings. He starts fifth, and we cannot look past Cody Miller, the Daytona winner, starting from the sixth spot. Starting seventh this evening at the iRacing Super Speedway, Howie Briss in that number 97, and Matt Hummel, in one of his few starts so far this season, rolls off eighth. To complete that top 10, though, we've got drivers Ashley Molyneux and Cole Freilich alongside one another, 9th and 10th respectively.
We get to the second 10 in this field with Tommy Gossett, one of the drivers outside the cutoff line. We expect to be a threat tonight as he's so fast on Super Speedways. And two-time winner Chad Oxendine trying to go back-to-back. He'll be starting the number 66 car in 12 tonight outside of row number 6. Row 7, Elijah Grassi in the 42, also trying to make some noise and flirt his way on up towards that cutoff line as well with Hayes Booth in the 14th spot. Car number 11, he's been getting stronger each and every week. If you could stay out of trouble, look for that car to be up in the top 10 early. 15th spot, Josh Robin, very strong at Daytona before getting swept up in a crash. And Aaron Smith, who had a great run at Daytona to kick off his season, he'll be looking to back that up here on the next Super Speedway start in car 70 and 16th. Back to row number 9 in the 17th starting position. Zoltan Herczeg, second in points, looking for another win on the season. Outside, Ariati in the 23. His run of momentum came to a slow at Homestead. He's looking to relight that fire here tonight at iRacing Super Speedway. Rounding out our top 20 is going to be David Schutt, highest driver in the standings without a win. He's third in points, 19th here. Also the Indy 500 winner from last week in the non-points event. And TCB, Tyrell Baker, outside of row number 10 and 20th in car 25.
Starting 21st this evening, it's Spencer Owens in car 12 with Sheldon Lockie in car 69 to his outside. Starting the inside of row number 12, you've got Sean Williams, one of everybody's favorites out there in the field, alongside John Berry, the most consistent NORC iRacing Series driver. Starting 25th this evening, though, it's Nicholas Caressel in the black number 30 car with Spencer Ray to his outside. Starting in the 27th position, it's Scott Shire in the number 4. Taylor Frey rolls off in the 28th spot. Starting 29th this evening, and to round out the field will be that 00, the famous tie-dye 00 of Justin Ford. It's a very quick pace speed here at the iRacing Super Speedway, so despite being 3 miles in length, this pace lap is almost already over. We're already into turns 3 and 4 to get this party started. And of course, it would not be the start of an NORC iRacing Series event without the one, the only Terrell Baker gracing everybody's eardrums with his always epic starting line calls. And we'll hand it over then to TCB for the start of this race.
All right, boys, here we are here for the first ever iRacing Super Speedway race at NORC. Can I get an iRacing Super Speedway? Yeah!
The entire field were either working out of turn number 2. You see 3 wide already. Lindgren down bottom. Pancari with a run up top. Howie Briss is there. Here comes Josh Robin. Help to Jared Darling. 3 wide down to turn 3.
Stay ahead for turn number 3, 3 wide for the lead. 2 drivers you don't see, Will Klein and Daniel Falkingham. They missed the grid. You saw in the overhead shot. They were rejoining the tail of the field. They're hoping for an early caution. Who's going to lead lap 1? Lindgren on the bottom. Darling and Robin up top. They work together so well at Daytona, but it's Lindgren leading lap 1 with Howie Briss in tow.
The 85 takes the first lap. That brings the Chevrolet of Howie Briss up into second. Matt Hummel follows. Hayes Booth there in line as well. Tommy Gossett is working his way up. We ride on board now with Cody Miller, who again won at Daytona in that fantastic photo finish with Tyler Justice. He's working the top side and is going to try and go on by that 54 of Tommy Gossett. A quick lead change. Darling up to first.
Darling getting a big push from Josh Robin at the end of the back straightaway. What's he going to do with it? He's going to cut down in front of Lindgren and leave Robin hung out to dry, but he's got help coming from Tommy Gossett, who's been one of the biggest movers in the field early in this race as they come back on the main straightaway. Look at this pack of cars. Now 3 wide for the lead at the line.
That's 4 wide, Eric, as Cody Miller comes around the top, brings Matt Hummel, and they stormed out of turn number 1. Robin drops all the way down to that yellow line and takes Tommy Gossett with them. A big crash. Zach Lindgren and so many more involved. You see Ariati, Matt Hummel, Terrell Baker. Tons of cars involved on lap number 3.
One of the first cars to go sideways looked to be that of Tommy Gossett, who got up to about the 2nd or 3rd car in line, and things got out of control quickly after they flashed across the line 4 abreast. You see TCB trying to hop his way through the grass. Hayes Booth with a lot of damage to the back end of that car. Ariati was backwards as John Berry drives away from the scene. A multi-car crash only a couple of laps in that collects a number of cars up towards the front of the field. When a problem like this happens this close to the front, it's guaranteed to be big, and it was.
Tommy Gossett, I was talking about him rolling into that 3rd position, just loose into turn 1. You see Lindgren do the same, but Gossett up the racetrack hard into Hayes Booth. They all check up, and I'd imagine that's where other drivers get involved. Hayes Booth spinning through turn 2, locks it down, and that's where John Berry gets involved and pogos a little bit out of turn number 2.
Very unfortunate series of events there after that was happening so early. And, you know, one thing that we really didn't get a chance to highlight here is we'll get a couple more looks at how this all took place from up top. This track seems to have a little bit of a set effect, almost like an expanded Dover, where you drive off into the corner and the car has to set in order for you to be able to keep your foot in it and not lose the back end. And unfortunately for Gossett, it looks like that didn't happen. And honestly, Zach Lindgren was doing about the same thing there, except he miraculously caught the car on the initial slide. He then got trapped up there amongst the transition. Ariati spins across the bow of Lindgren's car. That is an unbelievable job for Lindgren there, who may have sustained some form of damage from to keep that car pointed in the right direction the whole time, whereas Ariati and Matt Hummel, who were both in and around the 85 car, were not so lucky.
See kind of how it plays out there on a turn number 2, and not necessarily a big storyline per se, but certainly a big concern coming into this race by many drivers and the series as a whole was the way this car was going to handle the transitions into and out of these corners, and specifically into turns 1 and 3. The way the car drops down into that banking, again, it's a 26-degree difference. The way it drops down into turn 1, they are prone to getting loose like that. And oh my gosh, see the effect. David Schutt gets a piece. Ariati, a big slam as well. You see everybody just pile in. Nowhere to go for a lot of these guys. Terrell Baker went for a quick spin. You can see his number 25 there. It looks like he's relatively okay, but gets caught up and goes for a spin nonetheless in our first incident here from the iRacing Super Speedway. But these setups were actually tweaked. If you don't know, the iRacing, the NORC iRacing series is a fixed setup series. The difference, though, this evening is that, well, NORC simply changed the setups a little bit, raised the ride height specifically in order to try and avoid what we just saw into turn 1. Now, it can certainly still happen, but you've got to be very mindful of the way you turn into the corner. You've got to limit how aggressive, because you actually get a weightlessness feeling going into the corner here, Eric. I was testing a lot earlier just to get a feel for how these cars would handle this evening. We'll get to it here in a moment on board with now race leader Josh Robin, but when you come up over that drop in banking, suddenly the car just goes weightless. And if you turn just a little bit too much when it's all unloaded like that, as soon as it reloads, the car just goes for a spin. Right there when you drop in, we'll get a better feeling for it under green. You just completely lose all feel of the race car. I mean, it honestly feels like a rallycross jump, and when you land, all 4 corners of the car get grip again, and you're spinning.
That's one of the things that this racetrack kind of adds a little bit more spice to, as opposed to a Daytona or Talladega. Now, granted, you could still get aerodynamically loose there. We saw that happen in the season opener, but because of the speeds in which these cars are traveling, and then you add the characteristics of the racetrack and that immediate transition, it does kind of increase the risk of the back end getting light and losing control all by yourself. Despite the fact these guys are all running on top of each other, it also puts them in a position where they could, in fact, have to to focus on their approach and their attack to the corner to keep the handle underneath them and not have an incident like what we saw. And it collected a number of cars. And however, even though that crash happened and it was in the magnitude that it was, I'm surprised that not more cars were involved because so many had to get down on the flat. And we talked about that transition as we see a number of cars here on the pit lane. This was a big saving grace here for Will Klein and Daniel Falkingham, who did not make the initial start. They'll now be able to rejoin the field up towards the head of that pack. But there are so many variables when trouble breaks out in one of these corners, whether it be 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, and everybody did a really good job to get by cleanly, despite the fact that even though you have all that apron available to drivers left, it's not always the best route to take because it could send your own car spinning, and fortunately most of the field was able to get by without doing just that.
And what I'm seeing so far is, you talked about pit stops and saving some of these drivers. Well, everybody from 7th position on back opted to take some kind of service under this breakage of action. The top 6 stay out. Now, again, these are 3-mile laps. Now, they might go by relatively quickly because we're turning 230 miles an hour and faster, but when you're turning 230 miles an hour unrestricted like that, you're using a lot of fuel. I like the move by these guys to come in and at least top off. That's what we see through a lot of these drivers who did come in. Brent Pancari, David Shutt, and well, David Shutt had to make some repairs. It looks like Scott Shire in that same boat, along with Spencer Owens. But Daniel Falkingham, Chad Oxendine, and more all came in for very, very quick pit stops, assumingly just for fuel. So I can't wait to see how this restart goes with a mix of strategies up front. The top 6 stay out. Everybody else out the pit lane. We come to the restart now from lap 6 to 7 of 67. Into the restart zone, Josh Robin fires away. And we're back racing from the iRacing Super Speedway. So far, so good. Up out of the banking, a 26-degree change right there as you come up out of turn number 2. And let's take a look at the difference when you drop into the corner here in turn 3. Watch for this. Now, obviously, we can't feel it. We don't have force feedback like these guys do currently. But you can kind of see how this track just drops away right there. It's weightless. You drop down hard on the banking, you bottom out.
And that time you saw it there, kind of shoot Cody Miller, the Daytona winner, up the racetrack a little bit there, while Brett Picari and Ashley Molyneux continue to try to get themselves up towards the head of the pack. Here comes help from the early leader, Josh Robin, pushing Molyneux clear to the front, now diving low. Josh Robin wants to try to get that lead back here, as everybody's still trying to learn the effects of this draft, trying to see how great those runs are going to be, how far back they can come from to pull up and try to slingshot and make a pass. But right now it is Robin a leader, Miller second, side by side for third.
Everybody dancing around up front. Mel drops down low. He's going to take the inside then of Josh Robin down to turn number 3. Molyneux stays up top, and she is going to follow Josh on the top side. I think that top side is a little bit safer, certainly, than trying to turn down hard to the bottom of turn 3 and turn 1. You see TCB, though, pull right up to the back end of David Shutt. David Shutt won last week's NORC Indianapolis 500. He wants to go back-to-back.
The one thing that we saw out of Shutt here as that bottom lane starts to stall out, albeit momentarily, was his willingness, desire, and ability to be aggressive when it counted. He was a lap down late in that Indianapolis 500, his Dallara IR18, but he tussled it up front with the leaders all throughout the closing laps, got his lap back by the virtue of a caution, and then went on to win that race in thrilling fashion. He knows how to get the job done in some of the high-speed tracks. That's exactly what we're running here tonight, but things are awfully close in front of him as he dives to the bottom to push TCB to the lead.
TCB leading at the iRacing Super Speedway. I'd have to imagine the virtual crowd is on their feet as he's going to cross the start-finish line and lead lap 9. Maybe, yes, he led it, but they're 3-4 wide behind. He sweeps up high, blocks Cody Miller across the start-finish line, and will now drop back down to the bottom of turns 1 and 2. Something I wanted to highlight earlier on, Eric. I talked to you about it. The fact that Terrell Baker, TCB himself, is the only driver to lead over 20 laps and is the driver who's led the most laps en route to a victory on a super speedway in the last 11 races on a super speedway in NORC. 27 laps to Cody Miller's 19 a couple of seasons ago. That win for TCB came back at Daytona in season 11.
Right now, he's trying to add to that lead lap total here tonight at the iRacing Super Speedway, and he's been doing a great job driving defensively, but now Miller's up top. Robin's going to split the difference. 4 wide for the lead again with Cole Freilich up top. Freilich in the 15 trying to get up to the front of the field, and he's got Josh Robin down low. They're now double wide for 2 rows deep. Freilich goes way up high. Robin will cement the lead, but for how long? Off 2.
Freilich drops way back after that, just wanting to drop back in line. TCB goes low, Robin blocks. Here comes Cody Miller up high. They're still dancing for the lead. And oh, that was a great catch by Josh Robin as TCB went back low. Oxendine starting to join the party. Here comes Howie Briss, Sheldon Lockie. We got Cole Freilich and Aaron Smith back there in the back end of the top 10. Taylor Frey is moving forward as that at turn number 4. They go single file up in the front. Shutt blocks all the way to the wall. There was somebody else who used to drive those Hendrick-related paint schemes. Tyler Ducharme used to do that a lot way back in the earlier seasons of NORC, and he learned quickly that you've got to be careful doing it.
All that bobbing and weaving just allows the rest of the pack to close up quickly and try to get up there and take the lead away themselves. On board with Oxendine here off 2. Everybody's already got some battle scars here. Just 12 laps into the 67-lap affair. And look at the run that Oxendine's got. What's he going to do with it? He'll stay with TCB. No, he'll try to pull up top here and follow Robin and Shutt through as they go clear to the lead. Oh, there's that tap of the apron by Oxendine that's going to run him up the racetrack. Nobody's there to take advantage. How about Taylor Frey coming up into the mix while Shutt hunts the lead on the main straightaway? So much action here at the iRacing Super Speedway, and it continues for the lead.
Hayes Booth getting lapped. This is sketchy off into turn number 1. Everybody gets by so far, though. They drop down to the banking in turns 1 and 2. And if we get into a green flag kind of stint here, Eric, we have no clue when these guys will have to pit. We don't have any notes on how long these drivers can go on fuel. We're not entirely sure when they'll have to come in, but this could become a chess match, not at 200 miles an hour, not at 210, but at 230 plus, as Cody Miller back down to the bottom side and brings Taylor Frey.
And trying to prep for that pit entry could be a nightmare. You have to do it here coming off turn 4. You can't catch that transition on the apron, and you don't have a lot of time to get the car slowed down. Back up front. David Shutt now watching a double-wide battle. Miller down low, Baker up top. Miller's got Taylor Frey shoving him through. TCB's got Josh Robin shoving him through, and there's another lap car up ahead that these leaders are going to have to endure. And the change in transition in speeds between the draft and a car running by themselves, we touched on it in qualifying. We're talking about 20-plus miles per hour, and Josh Robin's about to get overtaken by the pack.
John Barry gets passed by all of these drivers off into turn 3 that time. The 74 very slow up top. He's got that damage from our first caution. Now side by side for the lead go Terrell Baker and Josh Robin. David Shutt is there. Here comes Cody Miller. So the usual suspects that you'd expect in a NORC Super Speedway race are up front, and they're going to go 4 wide across the line. Maybe no. TCB up to block. He keeps the lead.
Surprised to see John Barry go a lap down after he sustained damage in that earlier crash. This stuff up front, though, is intense, and I wonder if this style of racing is just kind of conducive to forcing these guys to have to make the moves when they can take them. It seems as though that the ability to ride in line, it just doesn't present itself under these style of circumstances here. You get such a run, if you try to lift and maybe preserve that move or preserve that energy, you got a whole pack of cars that are ready to barrel down on you and run you over, and it's forcing these guys to kind of take their opportunities whenever the aerodynamic effects make it all possible. Now things start to settle out about double wide for 5 rows deep, with Shutt leading the bottom, Baker up top. Now Miller wants to break free and go all the way out to the wall, with Shutt getting some good help by Oxendine as they're locked together in a tandem that should propel them to first and second in turn 1.
And you saw how much of a difference that made on the bottom side as Ashley Molyneux now joins the top 5, even the top 4. She's moving forward. Look at that 45 go on the bottom side. Here comes TCB. Tries to go middle. Hooks David Shutt the save as Oxendine drops low. Is he going to get back onto the banking before turn 3? Yes. 3 wide, 2 rows deep. It's like an IndyCar start in the 500. IRL did it. NORC now doing it into turn 3, and it works out.
That save by Schutt was at 235 plus miles an hour, and he kept the car underneath him while the field continues to shuffle about. He now gets a push from Taylor Frey to try to get back up to the lead as TCB leads at the line. He doesn't know which lane to block. He faded up high. Now Oxendine's going to push him forward, and now Schutt is trying to do the same with Taylor Frey, who tried to break out wide and move up into third. Now Ashley Molyneux gets down to the inside. What can she do if she can get a fender alongside of Schutt? Not going to happen off two.
And you see drivers stringing out in this field, starting to drop back a little bit. There's even a secondary group of cars that I want to highlight momentarily. We're talking about drivers like Will Klein, Jared Darling, Zach Lindgren back here. They've kind of fallen back and given themselves some space in case something happens up front. They're running single file. You see the 85 and 48 in the line on the bottom side while these boys continue to get serious up here. Schutt looks low, almost onto that apron. Thankfully gets back up before considering hitting that attenuator. We saw Cole Freilich do that last week. It's 4 wide again. Freilich is in the mix, and Frey almost shot the gap. That was close.
Frey had a big run there and didn't want to let it go to waste, and that almost got ugly there in turns 1 and 2. Now double wide for the first 4 cars. Sheldon Lockey had a big lift the last time down the front straightaway. How about 3 wide with Cody Miller trying to get up through the middle, and that's going to give Cole Freilich a big draft here. He ducks low, nearly 4 wide for second. Could Freilich try to take that up to the lead? Not quite, but here comes that 21 car. Frey down low on the bottom as well, trying to get up there to get himself in top 3 contention as they lap by Hayes Booth off the corner.
Hayes Booth, 1 more lap down. That makes it 2 now as Freilich considers the bottom. Looks like he's going to take it. Let's ride on board for another one of these transitions as they run 4 wide across the line. This is Cole Freilich into turn 1. Look at that drop into the making. He gets loose, saves the race car, but only just does he save that number 15 Chevrolet Camaro. They storm back out of turn number 2, and the big run from that top side. I got to imagine running the top is not only safer, but faster.
And I'm very surprised one of the few drivers I've been able to see work both sides of the draft, although wasn't able to do it there as he lost the lead, is Terrell Baker. He seems to Schutt caught the apron big time there in 3, but TCB seems to have a knack of being able to try to move up in front of a line and stop a run, and that's going to come in handy a little bit later on. How good is he at pushing, though? We're about to find out. He's on the backside of Schutt trying to push him around Miller up top, and he is locked together on the back bumper of the 5. It'll be Schutt to the lead, Baker to second, Miller back to third, maybe worse as Taylor Frey hunts the top side here.
Seeing some talk about speeds out in the chat. We're touching speeds of 230 plus, almost 240, even over 240 in some cases. Freilich a big run down low. He's going to take it to the inside of TCB. Taylor Frey up top. Here comes Josh Robin. Look at that run from that 8 car. He was up to about 240 into 3.
Yeah, Robin is somebody who was at the front of this pack early. He's still got that run going. Look at him dart down low. Now going to get all the way to the front of the racetrack is Robin, who nearly hits the attenuator at the entrance of pit road. Robin the second, but that run's going to stall out. Here comes Freilich, Schutt, Baker, and more, all trying to rocket their way past, and Freilich backs out of it.
Cole drops out. Brent Pancari fades a little bit high. 3 wide for second. Robin down low. Miller in the middle. And Schutt drops out of that top spot on the outside of turn number 2. Now goes side by side with Pancari. We start to see a little bit of maybe calm in the storm as Frey looks back to the bottom side. And we're just going to keep doing it all over again. Rinse and repeat.
I think this is going to be the tail of the tape for the remainder of this race, but we're starting to get to a point here where I'm starting to wonder about fuel mileage, Andrew. We talked about it a couple laps ago as Robin hunts the high side on TCB, but we don't exactly know what the fuel window entails for these cars at this racetrack. We do know that about the top 7 or 8 cars stayed out on the one and only caution we've had thus far. Well, we almost had another one there as Schutt went low on Robin, nearly turned him around that time in turn 1 with Miller pushing. Schutt will go to the lead, but if these guys have to start thinking about pit strategy, it's also very important to make sure that you've got friends with you. You do not want to come down by yourself because, as we've seen, the speed in a pack versus being by yourself could take you right out of contention if you do not get this done properly, as Baker goes back to the point.
No, and Cody Miller has been out here the longest of anybody, along with Cole Freilich. Those guys have been out here since the start of the race. They did not pit on that first caution flag. Everybody at least topped off on fuel aside from that top 6 that led us to the green flag. So Josh Robin was in that group, Howie Briss as well, Ashley Molyneux even. So they've got to consider what they want to do here in a few laps, and they've got to consider it quick. We're getting close to that pit window where at least where we imagine it'll open up. These guys doing 230, 240, they're going to drink up fuel as Freilich leads on the back. Here comes Bunkari, here comes Miller, here comes TCB. We've got an interesting little rundown to turn number 3.
And watching all these drivers take their runs and make these moves, it looks chaotic. It looks maddening as we see Baker run up wide, 4 wide for second with Freilich down low. That was close. With Schutt squeezing his way through on the top side. But I'm very interested to hear from some of these drivers later, because even watching from a distance here and being able to call this race at the iRacing Super Speedway, I got to admit, this looks like a lot of fun. We said it coming onto the air, Andrew, that if anybody can make this track work, it is these guys, and they are proving it. This has been phenomenal. So much fun to watch. I can't wait to see what the box score says as far as number of lead changes. It seems as though it's happening every half lap. We, of course, count them at the start-finish line, but they're continuing with Baker now coming up through the middle. That's one of the few times we've seen somebody pump the brake pedal as opposed to sticking it through there 4 wide. But this is going to continue all night long, and lap traffic is also going to be a bit of a factor here, as I believe they're coming up on the back of Hayes Booth once more off 4.
Out of turn number 4, they go low of the 11 car, and they squeeze down to the bottom side and across the line. Cody Miller leads that one. That's lap number 24 now in the books. TCB goes back low, and you can see that the tires are starting to wear off. Now, we wouldn't usually imagine that we talk about tire wear here, but yes, it's going to be a factor. Look at that. Track temp about 95 degrees. That is warm. It's not super hot, but that is warm, and we are going to see some tire deck this afternoon. You're already starting to see it by this group just widening out, stretching out across this 3-mile stretch of pavement, as now I say that, and we're going to go back 3, almost 4 wide into turn number 3. Schutt almost went between TCB and Miller. Freilich leads in the bottom.
David Schutt seemed very committed to remain latched onto the backside of that 28 car, Cody Miller, and he's still there trying to push Miller clear out in front to the lead, but for how long? Because right now, TCB was pushing Freilich. He elects to abandon ship, and that stalls the momentum of Brett Pancari, who was coming up through the middle of the racetrack. Now Baker back to the outside.
TCB round the top of Cody Miller, 3 of the most aggressive plate racers in the league now leading the show by quite a margin. Pancari not that far back, Josh Robin back in this little bit of a group, and Moore starting to tussle for 4th. TCB loses some time up top, but he's going to get caught up by the 35 of Pancari, the 8 of Josh Robin. No, Robin goes high. When does Miller pit? These guys have got to pit soon, I would imagine. They can get about 40 laps at Daytona and Talladega. But here, running a longer distance, running faster times, running higher speeds, when do they have to come in?
You got to believe it's going to be relatively soon, especially for guys who stayed out under that first stint. Even those who didn't, they only got a handful more laps in, as that yellow came out on lap 3. So, and the entrance to pit road, especially if you're in a pack of this magnitude and somebody's got to run on you, it's going to be very hard to stay out of trouble. One thing I'm noticing, though, I'm starting to see a little bit of a relationship as far as cooperation develop between the 5 and the 28. Miller and Schutt have been working together for the last few laps, perhaps longer than we've seen any duo do at this point in the race. That may be something to keep our eye on later on tonight here, as everybody seems to be working for themselves. Right now, Schutt and Miller appear to be working together, and just as I say that, Miller ducks up high and tries to get around Schutt with Taylor Frey coming through the middle. That's the fight for 3rd.
Herczeg now goes fastest at a 44.77. That's incredible. And in fact, that is up there with the fastest time ever turned in the NORC iRacing series by a NASCAR Xfinity car on a super speedway. I've got to check my notes again, but I believe the fastest so far is Terrell Baker's 44.747 at Daytona way back in 2016. That was 2:01, 1:31. I can only imagine what the average speed is now as these guys are turning again over 2:30, 2:40 sometimes. One car a bit slow. Looks like Cody Miller starting to drop back on the top side, but they continue in a line around the bottom.
We talked leading up to this race. We didn't really know what to expect as they fan out 3 wide for 3rd again. We didn't know if we were going to get a rash of cautions. We didn't know if we were going to get an absolute wreck fest. We didn't know if we were going to be here all night trying to broadcast this race. Granted, we're not quite halfway, We've seen comers and goers. We had one multi-car accident up to this point, and I got to say that these guys are putting on a pretty good show, all things being considered, with all the jockeying and weaving we've seen thus far. As I said, though, still a long way to go, plus pit stops, which are going to be very challenging, but we're also starting to see some names up towards the front that we have not all night, including this driver here, who, as you said a lap ago, Andrew, set the fastest lap of the race thus far. Zoltan Herzeg was not up in the top 5 at all in the first 30 laps in this one as they hit the stripe. Now trying to get up to second spot, with Robin staying glued to the backside of Baker to keep themselves 1 and 2 for now.
Lap 30 now, 67. Kind of a short race by those numbers, but again, when you consider they're turning 200 miles around this 3-mile super speedway, hyper speedway, as the iRacing.com wiki says, it's incredible the pace of this race is going. Zoltan Herzeg shoots the gap in the middle as Josh Robin goes high. Hayes Booth outside again. They're going to squeeze out of the bottom 4 or 5 wide as they went by. Incredible as TCB drops back a little bit. New race leader, though, the 96 car controlling this race now as David Schutt follows. Zoltan Herzeg, the reigning NORC iRacing Series champion, leads at the iRacing Super Speedway.
Herzeg is someone who we know to be quick on any type of racetrack that he participates on here. He finds himself out in front of this wild card at the iRacing Super Speedway. His last win came 2 races ago, Dover International Speedway. His only other win on the season came at round 5 at Kentucky. Now he's having a hard time fending off a driver looking to find victory lane for the first time this season in TCB, who goes back to the point. I'll tell you what, Andrew, he's certainly living up to the expectations and reputation as far as being an amazing super speedway racer. I have not seen anybody able to do what he has so far tonight as far as being able to get back to the front of the pack with relative ease. He finds himself leading this pack off of turn 4 with David Schutt and Cody Miller in tow.
No, and that's a common theme with TCB. He is just so good on these plate tracks. These guys put up a leaderboard of plate wins when they go to super speedways in official series, and TCB often leads that as well. The 25 car is simply the guy to beat on super speedways, so long as he doesn't get taken out by somebody else's mistake, somebody else's misfortune. So Terrell Baker, absolutely one of, if not the driver to beat on super speedways. Now goes back low. He won't block Cody Miller down to the bottom side, but he thought about it as Cole Freilich scrambles down to the apron into turn 3. Cole Freilich, a couple of laps ago, set the fastest ever lap on a NORC Super Speedway on iRacing at a 44.619.
Records are falling here early, and I don't think we're going to be done yet. Here's a big run up through the middle for that driver who's looking to get himself up to the lead, is that of Cole Freilich. He goes to the point here after setting that flyer 2 laps ago, and he's got Baker coming up behind him here. Freilich also trying to come back from a bit of heartbreaker in that non-points Indy 500 that was held 1 week ago when he looked so fast, was in contention throughout the night, and did not have the result to show for it. He finds himself trying to retain the lead in turn 3. Baker up top, Schutt behind. It has been Baker and Schutt who have been constants in the top 3 there, with Cody Miller as well. As
here we go.
The pit stops.
Cole Freilich in. Cody Miller follows. Now, I mentioned Freilich setting that fastest lap ever in an NORC Super Speedway race. That was good for 242 miles an hour average speed. Oh my gosh, I never thought I'd be saying that for a stock car, but he comes down the pit lane, brings that 28 car along with, and we got to wonder where these guys might cycle out, and if we get a caution, how does that affect things as TCB leads the field down the backstretch? See everybody in a line, they're prepping for these pit stops. David Schutt's up to second, Sheldon Lockie third, Ashley Molyneux in the top 5 along with Taylor Frey.
I'm going to start to see a lot of cooperation here amongst these drivers as they get set for what's going to be a fast run to the pit lane. Cody Miller got real sideways when he got on the binders last time through. Let's see how many elect to come down for service this time here. A pack of 4. Picari packs the back of 1 car and sends it sliding. That's Taylor Frey who hits the inside wall. Jared Darling with damage. No caution, but Frey was the car that got the bump from behind from Picari, and that is how things can unravel as you come down to the pit lane for service here at the iRacing Super Speedway. Wow.
You have got to be oh so careful on these pit entries. Again, going from 240 miles an hour down to about 65, I believe, is pit speed here. Oh boy, that's losing almost 200 miles an hour. Nowhere else are you pitting like that aside from Indianapolis in the Indy 500. Now through turns 3 and 4, Terrell Baker leads, Pancari up top, David Schutt there on the bottom. Who comes in this lap? Here we go. Schutt comes in. He's going to bring Elijah Grossi, it looks like, in the 42 car. Everybody else stays out. Pancari now down low, doesn't lead that lap though.
Now, pretty certain Pancari was the one who got into the back of Frey that time. May have abandoned ship as far as coming down the pit lane that time through, and Pancari's going to move up to the lead. And how about Sean Williams? There's a name we haven't called up into the top 5 much tonight. Same thing with Spencer Ray. Same thing with Aaron Smith. Granted, we're in the midst of pit stops as Hayes Booth is going to get the split on the back straightaway. Everybody threads the needle to get through there, but this is turning into the lead pack here. So as we continue to cycle through pit stops, these drivers may be able to stay up towards the front of the field, depending on how the rest of the pack blends in after service, with Pancari leading them all 4.
Imagine these guys pit, yep, this time by. Here come Pancari and Terrell Baker down the pit lane. Pancari a bit squirrely there on the brakes, TCB as well. Sean Williams, though, now leads, and here comes Spencer Ray. He wants that lap lead, and I think he got it that time by. And look at that, Daniel Falkingham finally shows himself this evening. He's up to second amidst green flag pit stops from the iRacing Super Speedway.
Falkingham, the points leaders, got help from behind by Aaron Smith, then Oxendine, Williams falling back, and how about Will Klein? Remember, Klein and Falkingham both missed the grid, started on the pit lane. They came down early multiple times to top off the fuel. We can expect these guys perhaps to go about 4 to 6 laps longer than some of the cars that have come down for stops already, and Falkingham will lead this pack back to the start-finish line, and Falkingham has gotten himself up to the top spot, but for how long? Here comes Ray, back to the inside at the line.
10 cars yet to pit. They're your top 10 on the top left of your screen. Ray, Falkingham, Smith, Oxendine, Williams, Klein, Herzeg, Lindgren, Shire, and Hummel. Still have to come down the pit lane. Caution flag flies. Cole Freilich in trouble out of turn 2. Elijah Grossi along with, it looks like David Schutt maybe grabs a piece. Jared Darling, maybe no. He is far enough back of it, but Cole Freilich and Elijah Grossi in trouble in turns 1 and 2.
Freilich was running in that lead pack, and he was in contention here, and then it came down the pit lane. Looks like he's going to elect the tow back to the pit area. Elijah Grazia had some connectivity problems earlier tonight. Fell a lap down early, and we saw him there running up in front of this group. Freilich is actually behind Grazia and Schutt. They're the next 2 cars up in line. And we see them kind of fan out here on the main straightaway. Schutt tries to get down as Grazia looked down low. Probably trying to work together here to make sure they don't lose too much time to that lead pack when they come down the pit lane for service. And here's where I think things are going to go wrong. This is down at turn number 1. Schutt tried to defend to the inside on Freilich. That shot Freilich to the apron, and he catapulted his way up into the side of Grazia, and Schutt ended up spinning in front of the field as well. That was a pretty aggressive block there by Schutt. Freilich had nowhere to go, and I can guarantee those two are not going to be too happy with one another.
No, 2 of the more fiery drivers in the series. Let's watch this one back as Schutt blocks to the inside. I don't know that was necessary, boys, but you see the result, and oh my goodness, the hit. Thankfully, they scramble. Everybody else misses David Schutt. Now, he already had a lot of damage. I wonder where that came for the 5 car, because last time we saw him, he had none of such damage. Let's go all the way back and maybe see if it came trying to pit. I wonder, well, no, it looks like he just picked it up, I guess, from that initial incident. So this is David Schutt down the pit lane, but this could help us diagnose what happens to Jared Darling potentially and others. Let's take a look at that now.
At first glance, when I looked up, I saw Taylor Frey spinning, and Darling was just behind. I wasn't sure if it was Pancari who maybe tagged the backside of that 21 on the pit stop. And we're gonna
it was Howie Briss.
Yeah, it was Howie Briss, so my apologies there to Brett Pancari. I thought that perhaps he was the one who tagged Frey and sent him around, but it was Howie Briss who got into the backside of the 21, and Jared Darling had nowhere to go and collected the 21 car as he was trying to get it righted to head back down the pit lane, so my apologies on that one.
Looking at it here, Howie Briss just gets into the back end of Taylor Frey and back up the racetrack. Jared had nowhere to go. He zinged when he should have zagged. and into the back end of the 21 car, gets some damage. He was able to get back out onto the speedway, though, continued on without too much trouble, relatively, considering the circumstances, and now pit stops underway. You'd imagine these are the money stops for these drivers. And even though we come to what I think is easily the biggest wild card of the season here, Eric, look at the race off of pit road. Daniel Falkingham first, Chad Oxendine second, Will Klein third. Then you've got Zach Lindgren and others. It looks like Josh Robin may be caught one lap down. He is. He comes out amidst these drivers, even though he's 18th on the speedway. Justin Ford, Jared Darling, Howie Briss, Taylor Frey are others that are caught a lap down. I gotta wonder, did Josh Robin maybe speed under his green flag stops?
This is somebody who led earlier tonight for a number of laps, was up in the mix, kind of swapping a lead around with a number of drivers, and now we see a minor lap down. This is kind of similar to how his Daytona went after being up towards the head of the field. Got caught up in a big crash, as did much of the field, as a matter of fact. But I believe that would make a lot of sense, though, Andrew. The fact that perhaps something took place to put him one lap down doesn't mean he's out of it just yet. David Schutt proved that in the Indy 500 running that we had 1 week ago for the NORC guys. So Robert's going to have a chance, perhaps, to come back up through the field here if he should get lucky with a couple of cautions. And as we're showing here, looks as though, I'm not sure if Ashley Molyneux is perhaps trying to get a bit of a wave around here, or if Ashley has elected to pull some strategies. So, okay, there we go. So Molyneux is going to try to get a wave around here, as are a couple of cars, and they will be hoping desperately for a quick yellow to see if they can get themselves back up into contention and back on the same pit cycle as some of the front runners, as the point leader finds himself in the lead.
While we have these very long pace laps here from the iRacing Super Speedway, let's take a quick moment and speak with one of our drivers in the field, somebody who's made some noise this evening in that number 25 Stacker Chevrolet. He's in the pit lane now. TCB, how's that race going for you so far?
Dominant.
That's one way to put it, and I don't disagree. Buddy, we know you're so good on these Super Speedways, but what's different about the iRacing Super Speedway?
What's different is that this is like scary the whole time. Literally the whole time. I mean, you enter the corner and guys are like spinning out and stuff, so it's just like you got to be really treacherous entering the corner. Try not to get a straight entry or else you're going to spin out. And obviously the runs, I mean, I'm sure that's the big topic of the broadcast today. Is these runs are just insane, man. I mean, you can't block them really, or else you'll cause a huge crash like Schutt just did there.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that so far. Got to ask before we let you go, anything you want to say to any of the viewers? Anybody you want to shout out?
Hey, thank you all for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Pit Stop TV, y'all do a great job. All TCB Nation, my friends, my girl watching, and my mom out there in the living room watching. Appreciate all y'all. God, hold on. Sorry.
Well, TCB, we'll let you get back to it. Best of luck, buddy. You're doing good.
Thank you, thank you.
TCB as he gets ready to get back going here from the iRacing Super Speedway. The entire field getting ready to go back green flag racing. Pace car lights are out. Look at everybody already single file. Boy, it really is a throwback this evening as we get ready to go back green flag racing. They stack up in the back, but up front, double file the first two rows. They fire off and away, and we're back green flag racing from the iRacing Super Speedway. Up and out of turn number 2, Falkingham leads, and he brings, it looks like Sean Williams along with 3 wide already. Here comes TCB up the middle of Chad Oxendine and Sean Williams. Now goes to the outside of Daniel Falkingham. Put the 25 car back in the race lead.
He joked that it was a dominant night. He said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but he meant it literally as well. And TCB Nation is on their feet as he has gone from, 8th to 1st in 1 lap off the restart, leading the points leader at the line here with Oxendine running 3rd. And it's Baker with the lead at the line. Now Falkingham wants his turn and try to get the lead back here on the racetrack with Oxendine pushing him clear.
Daniel Falkingham, Chad Oxendine, couple of drivers that have been dominant all season. Terrell Baker, a driver that's been dominant all night. These guys going at it, 1, 2, 3 up top. That's going to bring Josh Robin back into things, but Josh Robin is 1 lap down. He's still in the mix of this, though. Incredible what the 8 car is doing as the 3 leaders separated, go 3 wide into turn number 3. Oxendine files in behind Terrell Baker now, and it looks like that 20 car going to start to go backwards. That will bring the lap down Howie Briss into the mix.
Briss and Robin are the two that are trying to get themselves back on the lead lap the old-fashioned way, but they got 3 very fast and competitive cars up ahead of them. They got to try to find a way through, and they're starting to go side by side in front of them. Look at TCB play both sides of the draft, went up there and slowed the momentum of Falkingham up top. Came back down to protect the bottom on Oxendine. But I'm afraid that these lanes are now going to start to multiply as the runs continue to get stronger in the midfield. Falkingham going up top here, 3 wide for the lead, with Briss, the lap down car, trying to come with.
Everybody good on fuel at this point. They're only thinking about a race win at the iRacing Super Speedway. It's incredible what these guys have been able to do. Incredible how these runs come and go. Incredible how these drivers come and go throughout the course of a green flag stint. 4 strong up top, 4 strong down low. 1 in the middle, that's David Shutt as they raced out of turn 1. Falkingham fades up high. Bit of a side draft down to the corner as the top side takes the lead. Banker goes up top. Howie Briss takes the lucky dog position. Ashley Molyneux back into the top 5.
Yeah, how about Ashley Molyneux? She was taking the wave around the last time we saw that 45 car. Now she's driven her way up into the top 5 quickly off the restart and trying to work with Howie Briss to see if they could upset the apple cart here between Falkingham and Baker, who have had control of this race since we got it back underway. Baker down to the bottom. Falkingham slams the door. He now moves up top with David Shutt trying to pick which car he wants to follow through for the lead as Baker gets a good run off 4 and will lead at the line.
Briss 3 wide now out the outside of David Shutt. Again, Briss 1 lap down, but he wants to get that lap back the hard way in case of a caution flag, and that would promote Josh Robin into the lucky dog spot if Briss is able to do it. I think if you're Howie Briss, you should just ride around, but hey, more power to him. He is racing these guys as the top 4 starts to walk away just the slightest bit. And here comes Josh Robin back down low. Here comes Chad Oxendine for the race lead. They start to do it all over again.
It's the iRacing Super Speedway Shuffle for the NORC iRacing Series here with Baker getting a good launch there on the inside. And I really love the aggressive nature of TCB and being able to defend and block both lanes, but you got to be careful because at some point there may be too much of a run coming. He's got help now from Robin, who's trying to get that free pass spot back. Oxendine's going to move up to the potential lead here. I like the Sean Williams approach, though. Look at the amount of distance he's keeping between himself and the 5+ cars up ahead. Top 5 plus the 2 lap down cars of Howie Briss and Josh Robin. Williams doesn't appear that he is in any hurry to get up there and start slicing and dicing with these guys, as he knows these cars are starting to get a little bit more tough to handle as we approach the final 20 laps of this race.
Falkingham goes up high, takes Robin with him. Now Robin dives low to the back end of Terrell Baker. Almost contact between the second place car and the lucky dog car. That is what you've got to be careful of if you're Josh Robin and Howie Briss racing these guys for the race lead. You cannot take one of these leaders out as they fade up high, squeeze each other like oranges across the stripe.
Robin gave a really aggressive push to Baker that time down the main straightaway. He's going to stay down low. Oxendine up almost into the wall that time in 1 and 2 with Pancari trying to find a way through. Williams will take advantage of that as we flash up here towards the head of the pack. Robin, second car in line, first car 1 lap down. Falkingham in the slipstream. Down low is Howie Briss, who is still 1 lap down. Now not the free pass car as Falkingham almost ran into the back of Hayes Booth on the backstretch.
Boy, what trouble that could have been as David Shutt finds a gap between Briss and Molyneux and gets in line there behind the 97 car. These guys now starting to stretch out a little bit like we saw a bit ago, but they're doing it much earlier in the run this time. I think everybody knows that they can go green flag to the end, and they want to save their stuff for it because the cars get harder to handle. The speeds start to drop off just ever so slightly, and you may as well save everything you can in terms of rubber for the end as Falkingham goes high. Robin thought about blocking and tried to, certainly for a moment, but the 20 car gets there anyway.
Yeah, now we're starting to see a lot of separation, really, between some of these drivers here up at the front of the pack, which has been a rarity tonight. We've seen packs with about 10 cars deep just kind of jockeying all throughout with so many moves to be made, and it's very hard to defend those moves with the runs being as big as they are. And as we say that, here comes Falkingham down low. Baker with help from Robin up top. Briss knows he's got to get around that 8 car because if the caution comes out at any moment, that's his free pass to get back on the lead lap. And here comes Schutt to make it 3 wide on the bottom.
Oh no! Falkingham! Big slam, big crash. Howie Briss is done.
Falkingham's car
Lindgren in
at
it.
the bottom of the racetrack. Lindgren is involved. Multiple cars involved, and that looked very similar to our crash back on lap 3, where I believe Falkingham, who was up in the middle of that pack, I believe he was in the middle lane, got very loose on entry to turn 1, overcorrected, and slammed the wall head on. And Howie Briss had nowhere to go. He was the car up on the outside that rode Falkingham up into the wall, and they both sustained major damage. And this all started to take shape here about a half lap prior when they started to size each other up here. And this was getting around the lap car. I thought this was the first near miss that we had for Falkingham at the head of the field. Watch how close this is as he ducks out. He last minute saw Hayes Boots' car, got back in line. That kind of checked up the momentum of this field, and everybody here from Howie Briss on back is going to get a huge run. And once they got to turn 1, it all unraveled from there.
That is certainly anything but a mechanical failure as he dropped into turn 1, and the car just stepped out away from him. Now, admittedly, I think we've gone a little bit far back here in the replay, so we can speed this process up just a little bit, and we'll find the incident. But Daniel Falkingham just dropped into the corner and lost complete control of that number 20 machine. It should come right here this time into turn number 1. He had been shoved to the middle. Schutt went low, and oh my gosh, the overcorrection happened so fast. Williams gets a piece, and I don't know what happened further back with Zach Lindgren. It may have been a tale of two, I don't know. It may have been the same thing as I'm trying to say for that 85 car. It looked like he spun all on his own.
Good news for Zach Lindgren there, no major damage, but how is this going to upset things in the championship standings? I mean, Falkingham had pretty much had a stranglehold on the North field coming into tonight, and he sustained significant damage. We're on board here with Lindgren, who's running behind a crash. And yeah, you're right, Andrew. He got loose going into 1. I'm not sure if that's because he checked up, and he did get hit there by, I believe that was Ford who tagged him in the driver's side door, but I'm not sure if that was a simultaneous slide or if that was in reaction to the smoke up ahead. But this incident here for Falkingham is going to jeopardize his all laps completed total on the season. He was one of only 2 drivers who have run every lap this season thus far, and this is certainly going to jeopardize those efforts here after this hard crash in turn 1.
Yeah, just an overcorrection there from Daniel Falkingham. That's painful. And the way he left his car there on the apron shows you how distraught he's got to be after that one, after that big mistake down into the first corner on lap number 50, and it takes himself out of contention, likely a couple of others. Again, Howie Briss was involved hard in that one. Zach Lindgren, Justin Ford, they pick up a bit of damage themselves, but pit stops this time through go the way of Terrell Banker. He takes a 7.3 second stop. Spencer Ray for 6.7. Everybody else looks like 4 tires in fuel. Gotta wonder if TCB was there just for fuel, possibly. Maybe even just 2 tires. Hard to say, but boy, this changes everything. Thankfully, it doesn't really change anything strategy-wise. It just changes up, obviously, who's racing who, and puts 2 drivers in the front. One that we have not seen in the front all night long. Another who we saw in the front a while back, but certainly not for a while. What do you say we grab our new race leader and see how he's feeling going into this potentially final restart with just under 15 to go? Aaron Smith coming to you.
Let's get an opportunity here to talk to Aaron Smith, who we've seen this bright yellow car at the head of the pack at Daytona. Aaron, these super speedways seem to be right up your wheelhouse. Granted, you seem to be good in anything that you jump into. We see an asphalt modified competition. Obviously, we know and love you here from NORC. Boy, this has been a crazy night. We expect the trend to continue. What is your level of confidence here as you try to hold off this hungry pack of hounds behind you to try to grab yourself a win here?
Well, I'm definitely going to let them all by here. I don't want to have any trouble here in the last 15 laps, but in the last 3, I'd like to make a jump through the field again, but I'm not sure where we'll be then.
Have you been able to kind of set yourself up in different positions and see how quickly you can get a run on the car in front of you, or have you just been kind of biding your time all night long? What's been your agenda throughout this crazy and hectic night?
Yeah, I was banking on a green flag pit stop, but we didn't get through that run earlier. I was hoping we'd get there, and so I'd be able to save fuel and make it to the end. But yeah, I've been just hanging around and won't be able to do that now, though.
Well, you got the car that nobody can miss on the racetrack. We do hope to see you a little bit further up, a little bit towards the front of the field here at the end of the night in that bright yellow number 70. Aaron, we see you're a half lap away from getting back underway. Best of luck, bud. Hopefully we talk to you in victory lane tonight.
Alrighty, thank you.
And again, that is Aaron Smith II, who will be leading us down for the restart with the Daytona winner, Cody Miller, up to his outside in what is going to be a frantic run to the finish. Andrew's surprised to hear him say that he really doesn't want to have to be too aggressive to hold on to that lead. We'll see how it pans out here with the restart upcoming.
I gotta eat my words about something. I mentioned that was certainly anything but a hardware failure. Apparently, it is hardware related going into turn one. Buckingham via Facebook in the NORC group says that he had a wheel come off. He had the rim itself, the wheel came off of the base. That is a new one, and unlike Dale Jr. at Talladega some years ago, you can't just grab the remaining steering shaft and, well, just rip up your hand that way. It doesn't work that way on a sim racing wheelbase. Daniel Buckingham, with technical troubles into turn one, brings out that caution flag. Let's go back green flag racing, though. Aaron Smith leads the charge. Back across the start-finish line. TCB lines up third. Lap 54 is underway. Already, Smith goes high, drops back to the 6th spot. Zoltan Herczeg then files in behind Terrell Banker. You see the nose of that 96 car as we ride down to turn number 3 on board with the race leader, TCB.
TCB is going to go up and protect that run that was coming from Cody Miller. Ashley Molyneux is going to duck down low and push the second-place driver in points, trying to see if he can leapfrog Buckingham in the standings after his troubles and move into the race lead. Here comes Herczeg through to P1. Right now, TCB's kind of trapped in the middle. Here comes Sheldon Lockie back up to the front of the pack. Down low in that 69 car, trying to move up to third. While TCB goes back up top to look for a push from Miller. He's not going to get it, at least not yet here as they come through one. Herczeg still leading.
Sheldon Lockie certainly had a pretty troublesome season so far, pretty painful in a couple of incidents, but he is up in the top 5 this evening. He's making noise for himself, and he's been in the top 20 a lot of this season in points. It would be big for him then to get a top 5, if not a top 3 or a win this evening at the iRacing Super Speedway. He is giving it his all as he moves into 4th into turn 3, edging ahead momentarily of Zoltan Herczeg. Now on the bottom side behind Molyneux into the inside of Cody Miller. He rides, gives that shot in the shorts, then to the 45 car who takes it high, and TCB can't defend. He was talking about the inability to defend big runs, and look at that, Josh Robin of 44.497.
Look at where Robin is right now in the running order. 5th, they're getting the free pass on the last caution. Josh Robin proving that if he gets an opportunity, he's going to try and take it. He's now the 5th car in line. Lockie to the apron. Miller up top for the lead. Molyneux trying to block as Robin tries to go up to 2nd, pushing Miller clear to the lead, and Josh Robin to the runner-up spot, clear of Molyneux, and now looking outside for the lead in 4.
Hey, it's go time here on a NORC Super Speedway race. Everybody coming up to the front. Robin up to the top side. Maybe a lead across the line. Molyneux down low. Robin got that lap as we take 11 laps to go. The average speed on that fast lap for the 8 car, 242.7 miles an hour. That is insane as we now run through turns 1 and 2. The top 2 step away momentarily. Those guys working together as we get 3 wide. No, we start to sort out further back. These guys finding their places in line, and Zoltan Herczeg riding around. I wonder when those guys start to work back up.
Well, we see Aaron Smith has moved himself back up in the 8th spot after getting up and out of the way on the restart. Field's going to accordion back together here. Watch for some big moves coming up here on this front straightaway as they come to 10 laps to go. Lockie nearly to the apron down low in the red car with Miller up top in the black 28. And right now, Baker appears glued to the backside of Josh Robin, the leader. Baker has been one of the drivers we have seen make moves with relative ease tonight. His defensive driving tactics have been superb as well, but he finds himself on the full offensive side of the spectrum here right now on the back straightaway with the run starting to materialize to his outside. Miller and Lockie tied together. Here they come on the top side.
The 28 and 69, an odd pair to work together, but they work into turn number 3. Now Lockie up high, they start to lose some momentum. It looks like Josh Robin and TCB are able to defy what we were seeing earlier on, where the top was better. I think if you put 2 organized or even 3 organized drivers on the top side, though, it will reign supreme over the bottom. Now Lockie down behind Molyneux. Spencer Owens, a 44.437. Does that potentially break 243 miles an hour? It does! Average speed of 243.0.
Owens trying to get himself up into the mix here as it is go time. We're going to start to see all these names cycle their way up to the front of the pack. Will Klein is closing. Spencer Owens here in the top 10 looking for more. And all these guys who are starting, or I should say running.
Oh, David Shutt turns Josh Robin. Oh, maybe a save. No, I don't know. Caution flag flies. Oh my goodness, Zach Lindgren.
Lindgren looked as though he pounded the side of Josh Robin's spinning car, and that may be the final nail in the coffin for Zach Lindgren's night, who was nearly involved in that lap 3 crash. We saw his involvement there in the second caution as well, and now he's got significant damage. And for Josh Robin, that charge up through the field while battling for the lead is going to be all for naught here, as it looks as though his race, at the very least, is going to end with 8 laps to go on the apron of turn 4. That car has yet to roll.
Just a little bit of contact there, bumper to bumper, David Shutt to Josh Robin. It's something you just can't do into these transitions. We'll watch on board from Shutt as he just gives, oh, you know what? I don't know actually about that one. He clearly did not hit him. That's tough to say, Eric. This might take a while to diagnose.
It certainly looked like TCB went up to stop the run that the 8 car had. I'm not sure if David Shutt may have tapped the left rear, then tried to get off of the 8 car, and then suddenly Robin broke loose. It seemed to be a series of events that took place here. Watch the 25 way outside against the outside retaining wall. And once he clears Robin, he's going to cut down in front of him and try to accept whatever push and momentum he could have, right as David Shutt is on the backside of Robin here. So here comes TCB slicing across the bow. I think this is right where the nudge happens to the 8. Shutt gets off of him. The car sets in the corner, and he washes his way up the racetrack there. I don't think that spin was the result of the slight contact that Shutt gave him in the corner. But, boy, that's what close racing at the end entails here. Ricochets off of Chad Oxendine, slides back up the racetrack, and finally it got beyond a savable point for Robin as he heads back up towards the wall head on.
There was some netcode there into turn 3, and I've been on this sim a long time, Eric. I've seen a lot of kinds of netcode. I'm not sure where that one even starts. To see Lindgren pile in on the bottom. We'll have to take a look back at that one. And, of course, the 66 spinning of Oxendine, we got to check in on him, and it looks like maybe he started to gather things up. But, yeah, so he ends up with the save of the day, honestly. But I looking at that, even in slow-mo, I really don't know where the netcode comes from. I would imagine it likely is from the 69 of Lockie. There's netcode there, and yeah, it affects the 5 car as well. You can see that suddenly jolt up the racetrack. But, oh boy, how does Lindgren... He must have been all kinds of out of shape seeing all of that go down, because he was already straddling the yellow line on the apron.
And I will say that netcode was definitely a little more evident from my perspective at real time. You could just kind of see how abruptly that car shifted up the banking before it eventually went around. This has been an eventful night for Zach Lindgren. I thought he was going to be able to survive all the hits that were coming his way as he's gotten through every caution so far tonight. But here it is again. The wreck happens up in front of him. Where does he go with it?
Once again, zigged when he should have zagged and unfortunately gets some contact. I mean, not some contact. That car is destroyed in that turn 4 incident and likely done for the day then as we're still under caution flag. It looks like we're coming around to 1 to green potentially. Hey, this is another opportunity to talk to somebody in the field. I know certainly at a place like the iRacing Super Speedway, it's good to hear what these drivers are thinking. What do you say we grab somebody that's been turning our heads all season long with that 35 car? Brett Pancari coming our way.
And as we got 1 lap to go before the restart, Brett Pancari, not only have you been great all season long, you've been great here tonight. We've watched you get a lot of runs. We've also watched you counsel patience. Is it time to be patient out the window? Is it all aggressive from here to the finish?
Kind of is. I want to get the tires up one of the below it for a few laps, and then I can go, because the later in the run, the car's a little bit better when the entry in the corner, because practice was really, really loose at entering the corner if I don't have it right. So gonna wait a couple more laps, and then God help us all.
Well, we'll be watching, buddy. We see you're a half a lap away from getting back underway. Tonight could be the night we finally see that 35 car in victory lane. Best of luck, Brett. Go get him.
All right, thanks.
Brett Pancari getting set to restart this race from what looks to be the inside of row 4 in this upcoming restart. He's got a lot of heavy hitters in and around him, but he has certainly been one who knows how to get a run going, and I think he's going to be fun to watch in that Princess Daisy number 35.
So, we will re-rack them, re-stack them, and get ready to go back green flag racing. We'll have 5 laps to go as we get ready to complete 300 miles of racing action from the iRacing.com Super Speedway. We'll take lap 63 on this restart. Molyneux, your race leader. Then it's Lockie, Baker, Miller, Schutt, Owens, Pancari, Ray, Smith, and Herczeg, your top 10. Coming back to the restart zone, Molyneux in control of the field. And across the line, we'll get this race restarted. Green flag in the air from Barney the flagman. We're back racing for the final 5 laps from the iRacing.com Super Speedway. Barreling up out of turn number 2. Most of the field in single file formation now across the bottom of the backstretch. And here comes TCB. As soon as I say they're single file, he defies me and brings that 28 car with him. Here comes Schutt. Now single file as they move up high. And Miller looks low, says goodbye, see you later, Terrell, and takes the race lead.
Miller goes down and through to the lead. Look at Terrell, ducked down to second in line. He didn't want to plummet through the running order. Was just about to make the point. That is Molyneux. Whoa, big move there inside. Sheldon Lockie getting a push. 4 wide the lead as they hit the stripe that time. And that's Chad Oxendine, as a matter of fact, coming up around the outside. Oxendine to the point, trying to get his 2nd win in a row and 3rd of the season. But look at the pack. He's got to fend off to get it done.
Someone who just had one of the best saves of the year so far is now leading this race. Baker back to 5th, but they're going to go 4 wide, possibly again. Here comes David Schutt. He shoots the gap. Oh, they almost went 4 into 3, and into turn number 3 this time. Baker on the back end of Miller. Wow. Single file up front.
Not Spencer Owen starting to throw his name into the mix as somebody who could walk out of here with a victory in what's going to be a chaotic final few laps. David Schutt, 3rd in line, yet to win this season, as is your leader. Look at the slice down to the bottom there to try to protect now the middle lane. Soon to be the outside lane. TCB playing defense in the purest form here with under 3 laps to go. Now down low to try to work with Miller, who's got Ashley Molyneux in the 45, closing up to try to take 3rd away off of 2.
Here comes Peanut up to P5, now working on 4th. He gets by David Schutt. Does he go high? He does. Does he have help? He does. Here comes Sheldon Lockie to help Spencer Owens round the top side. Talked to him earlier this week down at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. He was excited to see how things went this week. Boy, they were looking good for him now as we come around to take popsicle sticks. The final 6 miles underway from the iRacing Super Speedway.
Zoltan Herzog ducks out. He's going to lead that outside lane. Brett Pancari, just heard from him. That's the fourth car in the inside lane as they run the turn one. The land rush continues all throughout the field. Everybody now running in tight formation, trying to see where they want to position their car for what is going to be a final, exhilarating, and thrilling lap and a half to see who will take the win. Miller darts up top. Herzog makes it 3 wide. We're 3 wide for the lead on the back straightaway with a lap and a half to go.
Into turn number 3, where do you want to be going into this final lap? I'd imagine certainly not the race leader. Feels like you're a sitting duck if you're leading either one of these lines. A whole lot's going to happen in the final 3 miles from the iRacing Super Speedway. Across the line, though, to take that white flag. Here comes the black number 28. Leads that time, and here comes Spencer Owen up to second. Owens now looks low as they lap Sean Williams. He's going to take the bottom side and possibly the race lead. He knows is ahead. Now side by side for second. Molyneux comes through, and they're side by side for third.
Top 3 have not won a race this season.
Oh, and he turns him! Terrell Baker turns Spencer Owens!
That's going to give Molyneux the lead with Miller pushing. Shutt third in line. Herzog down low as they approach turn 3 for the final time. Molyneux trying to defend as they approach the final 2 turns.
Turn number 4, now the Daytona winner up to the top spot. Does anybody have anything for him? Cody Miller, the race leader out of 4. Zoltan Herzog down low. Does he have help? They wreck it across the line. Ashley Molyneux's going to win at the iRacing Super Speedway. Clyde and Shutt, your top 3. Wow!
What a move. Right place, right time. We saw Miller try to throw the block. It did not work there. And it is Ashley Molyneux adding her name to the list of winners in NORC iRacing competition in 2021 by 54 thousandths of a second. It was almost Will Klein at the line, but he came up 600 short. What a way for Ashley to get the win here tonight. And Shutt comes home in third.
To the injured 35 now on the apron. We'll check in with the injured number 70. No nose on Aaron Smith's machine. Oh my goodness. There's Scott Shire, but it's all Ashley Molyneux out front and to the start-finish line. Now a race winner finally in the NORC iRacing series. I don't think she's gotten a win just yet in the series. I got to check the all-time win list. I don't think she's gotten one yet. She's been darn close so many times, but I think this is the first for the 45 car. I got to look through and double check, but I think we finally get to add Ashley Molyneux's name. By my count, yes.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. And granted, Ashley's not running all the races. As a matter of fact, up to this point, she's only made 2 starts, this being her third. But the one start in which she did make, she was running very, very well, had a top 5 finish. I believe that might have been on the short track that we saw Molyneux, who always runs good there. Came out here at the iRacing Super Speedway. Remember, we saw earlier, she took the wave around on one of the cautions, got back up into the top 5 just 3 laps after the restart, and was in the right place, positioned that car perfectly for that final lap, avoided both last lap incidents, and you can tell she's hyped because she is burning down the house. Good celebration there. Enjoy it because you earned that one, Ashley Molyneux. Welcome to the NORC iRacing Winners Club.
Finally, Ashley Molyneux grabs a race win. It's been a good last couple of weeks for her. She won in the Cross Series League Racing in their season finale back at Laguna Seca a couple of weeks back now. It's been a good couple of weeks, I'd say, for this 45 car, and the famous, I think at this point, Morton Salt paint schemes that she always runs. I know Logan Detweiler was excited to see that paint scheme out there once more, but I want to go back and I want to try and diagnose this finish. Obviously, we saw what happened there with Spencer Owens and Terrell Baker, but there's so much more to unpack on these final couple laps, really the final lap, and this is going a ways back on the restart. Here's Terrell Baker. This should be on the backstretch. I believe this is 2 to go, and I think we're coming to the stripe the next time by for the white flag.
And it's important to unpack all this because look at where that 45 is right now. Second car in line on the bottom of the racetrack, and things are getting tight amongst some of the front runners here. And right now, she's got no help from behind. There's a big gap back to Brett Pancari, who is the next car in line. And she remains patient here. Now elects to go to the middle, then decides to continue to push TCB on the bottom, as it was Miller who led there at the line. But Spencer Owens got a masterful run here. Miller tried to block, couldn't slam the door shut. And then things get a little bit wild here with Owens up front and TCB finding himself in what should have been or could have been the catbird seat as they came out of 2.
And there's the contact. Owens and TCB tangle. We're gonna have to go back and look at that some more. Out of turn number 4, though, is where things get really spicy. You saw the 28 car leading. Cody Miller out of turn number 4 had this race potentially in the bag, and I think this is where things get a little bit controversial here, Eric. You see the 48, the 96, big time down onto the apron, comes back up, and Miller goes down to defend and contact, and they slide across the line, and well, they're flipping across the line. I think that is the controversial piece of this final lap.
Yeah, the good news there to see, though, is the fact that Ashley Molyneux was well clear and high of the incident there. So she put that car in the right place at the right time. We say it over and over again. Nowhere near involved with any of the contact that took place with the 28 and 96 and the charge to the checkers. Here's another look at it. And it's really hard to tell. From my initial vantage point, it looked as though the 28 came down to try to defend or maybe even to stop Herczeg's momentum. But that time, they both went for a wild crash across the line while Molyneux got the clear path to victory. Judging by that one first look that we had, I would say that perhaps, and we'll get a good vantage point here on board with Zoltan Herczeg, who was trying to maximize his advantage in the points after the problems with the championship point leader Falkingham. And let's see how it looked.
Usually, yellow line's a no-go. I think they just drive into each other. I think that's just final lap. One driver trying to take the race win, the other driver trying to defend. I don't know that you can blame either driver. It depends on how you look at that yellow line, though. It's not a double yellow line. I don't think it's being treated the same way as Daytona Talladega, where, of course, that is a no-go zone. But I still think driver etiquette then gets to decide who's in the right and who's in the wrong to turn number 4 between those guys. And I think it comes down to the drivers. How do you view that? Obviously, Zoltan felt that was an illegal move and felt like that's what he needed to do to try and win the race. And, well, he did it. You see Peanut just kind of blocked, and he takes himself out off the nose of Terrell Baker, it looks like, down the backstretch. But, I think that just comes down to driver's choice, realistically.
That onboard shot was very telling. It did look like that as Herczeg may not have realized that he was going to be down on the flat, try to get himself back up the racetrack. Because that apron is not necessarily defined on the front of the straightaway until you get to that yellow paint. And I think at the same time, Miller may have come down a little bit as well. And, I mean, look at the carnage as they come to the line with Molyneux just edging out Will Klein, who is up against the inside wall, was our second-place runner trying to dodge the spinning cars. And Herczeg catapults his way up across the start-finish line to settle for a finish outside the top 10.
Now that we've got that all diagnosed, pieced apart, let's take a quick post-race break. We'll be right back to you after a couple of our messages from our partners here at Pit Stop TV. Don't go anywhere. Post-race coverage just on the far side of this one. I can't wait to unpack that finish.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home. By combining the best of 2 products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. Sound Art ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20, and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
Welcome back to the iRacing Super Speedway. It says Concord, USA, but I believe it's, what is it, Chelmsford or Chelmsworth, Massachusetts, that iRacing claims is the hometown of the Speedway. I wouldn't mind this one in real life. I think the town in Massachusetts might a little bit because it would be loud and chaotic, but boy, would this be a fantastic venue for real NASCAR racing. It was insane tonight, Eric. It was certainly a barn burner. I think one of the most exciting races we've ever had here on Pit Stop TV, certainly through and through. You never could leave the top handful or so. You had to follow the action up front. We did that, and Ash DeMolino comes out on top of it all. What do you say we grab the driver of the 45? Finally, a race winner in the NORC iRacing Series. Ashley, it's been a good couple of weeks for you. This is the second time now we're talking to you as a race winner.
Absolutely. Man, I've been, I was actually just talking to Will and Chad. This is the league I've wanted to win in for years, and I've come close a few times too, and I've just kind of thrown a few incidences away as well. And I mean, this race is going to be a bit of a lottery no matter what, but still, that's, I screamed. I absolutely screamed.
I think I would have too. I can only imagine the excitement. We're watching the replay back in slow-mo, of course, and we're four wide now across the line. TCB talked about the runs, the massive differences in speed when you could get behind somebody and draft up. We saw laps averaging over 240 miles an hour. How did you manage that, especially as somebody who had to take the wave around and then come through the field?
Quite honestly, I ran most of the race like half throttle, just kind of chilling behind a lot of people. Like the first stint, I was mostly saving gas because I didn't really know for sure if it was a one-stop or not. And then on that second one, figured, that was awful. Let's just kind of try to ride in seventh for the most part. So I just kind of hung behind a lot of the people that were up there dueling it out the entire time. And then close to the end, just kind of took advantage of a few holes that happened to open up. And then, at least on that final run to the line, as you were saying with the massive runs, I knew that once I was leading on the backstretch, that was a horrible spot to be in because the whole field was going to get a massive run coming out of 3 and 4. So when I think it was Cody and Zoltan, right, got to my inside, I was just like, well, okay, third or fourth, not bad. I'm still cool with that. And I think I threw the nastiest block I've ever thrown in my life on David Shutt. Because my thought there was, screw it, I want to win this thing. If we wreck, we wreck. I don't really care. We're all going to wreck anyway. It's a plate race in NORC at the line, you know?
Absolutely. Well, you say a plate race. Technically, no restrictor plates on these cars, but it was insane nonetheless. And
True.
But hey, you did a great job of, I think, managing the traffic forward and back, the ebb and flow that we saw all night long. And I do got to ask real quick. We saw somebody out in the chat, Logan Detweiler, asking about the Morgan Salt paint scheme. I know it's a signature of yours. You always got to have the Morgan Salt on that car. Why is that?
Well, initially, it started like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I actually got back in iRacing because I'd quit for a bit because of watching Sean's streams. And it kind of got me into it. And by circumstance, we were in the same... I'm sorry, my throat hurts and I've been chugging water, so I keep, like, choking a little on water. We happen to be in the same split every week, right? And the split that we were in was just crybabies every single race. You got too close to someone, they were screaming. You breathed on someone, they were screaming. You told them that dinner was ready and they had pause in 5 minutes, they were screaming. All that type of stuff. So I made a Morton Salt car just to make fun of them because of calling people salty when they're mad. And it just kind of stuck. So I've just reiterated the paint scheme throughout the years into the form that it's in now, which personally is my favorite. But there's absolutely no connection to the company. It's just because I've thought it was funny for a really long time and it's just kind of become a long-running gag.
Well, hey, it's certainly, I think, fitting in some scenarios. You've been really, really fast on those short tracks that we've had so far this season. Certainly, North Wilkesboro comes to mind. I'd imagine you made some people salty that week. I'd imagine maybe a few others tonight. You get the race win. It's got to feel pretty good. Who do you want to shout out? Who do you want to thank here at the iRacing Super Speedway?
I want to thank everyone in the field for the most part, too. This and it was FTRL at the time, but it was mostly the same people, right? That was when I changed my name and started being public about the whole transition thing. And pretty much everybody's either been good about that or hasn't cared. So I want to thank everyone in the field for that, because that's really appreciated. And thank Revan for letting me in the first place, considering when I first started, I kind of had a bit of a ragey personality and some bad tendencies. So thank you guys for broadcasting, because I genuinely love watching the broadcasts. Like, I normally lurk in chats, but generally if I'm home and you guys are streaming, I've got it on, and I'm paying attention to it, right? And I want to thank my mom, because that's also a staple, so thanks, Mom.
I gotta say, Ashley, it doesn't even faze me at this point. We know you as Ashley Mono now, but it does actually, I think it's fitting to open up Pride Month that you get this race win, and I want to give you props for being so open about it. It's fitting, again, because it opens up Pride Month, but also I do want to give you props for being open about it and being yourself. I think that's really, really cool, and certainly something to be admirable, whatever the word would be. I think it's something to hold in admiration, certainly. So congratulations on the race win. Congratulations on being yourself here, and go and celebrate this one. By all means, live it up tonight.
I'm going to drink wine, and thank you.
Fair enough. Ashley Mono grabs the race win this evening. Ashley's a longtime member of the series and used to be teammates with her as well. And certainly, I think the voice could be a little bit deceiving here, Eric, but she's turning into a bit of a Nork badass. And the race win tonight and just being so open, just, hey, you're going to be salty. We're going to run salt on the paint scheme. I think that's hilarious. But, man, she bested one of the best in the field to get this race win out of the final corner. It's Will Klein coming to you.
That's going to be a tough act to follow here. Now, from the winning end of the spectrum to the driver who came up less than 0.06 of a second short, Will Klein, you just barely lived up to the nickname Will Klein at the line, came up one spot short. But considering how this race started, with you guys having to start from the pit lane, what do you take of this runner-up finish here overall? I mean, I know it wasn't the win you were hoping for, but what a way to battle back from that rough start. What happened there to put you guys on the pit lane?
Oh, we did that on purpose. We knew there was going to be some sort of junk, and it happened. Yeah, you just wanted to be there for the last lap because you knew if somebody was wrecking, it was taking out a bunch of people.
And we saw it happen a handful of times. However, you seem to be biding your time in the midfield for a long time. When did you decide it was time to go? Was it that last restart when you started to quietly work your way up through the pack? What was your game plan there as we went green for that final time to get yourself up in a winning contention?
I started hitting the gas halfway down the backstretch coming to the white flag.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible. And you come up just a little bit short. We had two crashes there on the final lap. You're able to navigate your way through. When things started to fan out wide and you saw the seas part ways in front of you with Herczeg and Miller going flying, do you think that maybe you had it, or were you well aware of the fact that that 45 had you by a bumper?
You know, I wasn't too quite sure because I really wasn't. I was focusing on those two, not what was going up above me. I thought, looking after, I thought maybe if like Shutt and Molno had maybe if they had gotten out of shape a little bit more, I would have gotten it. But, yeah, the run was up there, so I really didn't have things going in my hands.
Well, we put you down as a favorite when the season kicked off at Daytona. You didn't have the best of luck there, got caught up in an accident, but you've been quietly working your way up through the championship standings. 6 in points coming into tonight, and being that a couple of drivers up ahead of you, granted the top two had major problems, this is certainly going to help you here through one of the biggest wild cards on the schedule. What do you think are your chances here to continue that trend, continue riding this wave of momentum as we get closer towards playoff time?
No, I have not performed at all, really. I really need to just put a race together and win. I can in this league. I can with these people. I just haven't been able to put it together yet. I got to do that.
Well, the next chance is going to come in Iowa 1 week from tonight. Now, before we let you go, Will, just want to give you an opportunity here to shout out all those who make these events possible for you on a great second-place finish here.
I'd like to thank John for putting on the league. You know, we've been doing it for a while, over 5 years on iRacing and 10 years online in general. Thanks to you guys for broadcasting, and thank you to the people watching.
And thank you to participants like you, because it's guys like you who make this very exciting, guys and gals like you who make this very exciting. As we had a thriller of a finish here at the iRacing Super Speedway, we didn't know what to expect, but the margin of victory was under 0.06 of a second. Will, I'm sorry that you came out on the second place end of that, but looking forward to see what you have in store for us at Iowa 1 week from tonight. Congrats on a great run.
All right, thank you.
And again, that is Will Klein, our runner-up from the iRacing Super Speedway, in what was a thriller of a finish, and another driver who was in contention for top honors there. In fact, I believe he was searching for what would have been his third win of the season, would be that of Chad Oxendine. He should be standing by with Andrew here in just a moment.
Chad Oxendine, again, had one of the best saves we've seen all season. Certainly a clutch save as he almost came through to win this evening. Chad, it was almost back-to-back for you from Homestead to the iRacing.com Super Speedway. You almost had it. Tell us about those closing laps. Like I didn't quite grab Chad Oxendine. Now we got him. Chad, it was a heck of a save for you. I think a very clutch save that kept you in this race. You are almost able to make that save matter the most of, I think, any save so far this season. Not quite where you wanted, not quite back-to-back from Homestead now to the iRacing.com Super Speedway, but very, very close. Tell us about those final laps.
Wild, to say the least. I mean, I didn't know what to expect coming into tonight. I never turned a lap at that track before, and it was pretty fun without the restrictor plates. But, the last laps, I didn't know what line to be in, where to go, but we just went for it and ended up P4, which is fine by me. Congrats to Ashley again. I know she's been close a few times, so happy to see her get the W tonight.
Absolutely. I think it's certainly a fitting win, but we got to get that 66 car back up there. We're going to Iowa next week, and you've talked about how much you love these short tracks, how good you are on them. How do you feel going into Iowa?
I feel good. Iowa, I like that style track. It presents a couple grooves of racing in 3 and 4 at least. I don't know about 1 and 2, usually about a groove and a half, but Iowa's a great track, and especially in this car where you really got to drive it. So I feel like it's a driver's track. I feel like we'll be in the hunt. As long as I get a little practice in before the race, I think we'll have as good a shot as anybody next week. Looking forward to it.
Certainly, I think this 66 car is shaping up to be one that you've got to consider for title hopes. Buddy, live it up this evening. Almost podium. You got a couple laps led, though. Who do you want to thank? Who do you want to shout out to close this one out from the iRacing Super Speedway?
Yeah, just all my family and friends out there watching every week. I appreciate them tuning in to you guys' great broadcast on Pit Stop. So thank you guys for that. John Barry for putting this all together for us all to enjoy our Tuesday nights on here. And just all the competitors, and Ashley again. I'm happy for her to see her get that win. So congrats again to her, and we'll see you guys next week at Iowa.
Absolutely, Chad. We'll see you there, and I can't wait to see how this 66 car does in 1 week's time. Again, one of the best on the short tracks here in the NORC iRacing series. Watch out for him, but we always got to watch out for this guy who didn't quite close out the race like he wanted to, but he led a ton of laps. That number 25 car was fast. Eric is standing by.
Yeah, and I got to say, when we go back and rewatch this race, I think that TCB is going to be the one who provided the maximum amount of entertainment all throughout the night. Unfortunately, came up a little bit short there on that last run of the checkered flag. And Terrell Baker, I got to tell you, what, if anything, could you have done differently there on that final lap to be up towards the front of the pack at the checkered flag like you were pretty much all night?
Looking back at it, I mean, I've been watching it a few times. I kind of wish I would have moved high on Spencer there and just try to make a different move. I mean, it's hard to say really because, I wasn't really too sure of the rules because I went low on Spencer coming out of 2 there. And a thought flashed in my head saying, oh, yeah, you can pass under the yellow, but I wasn't really too sure. And come to find out, you can, but at the time I didn't know. So I went under him, and I don't know who came up or who came down. I mean, like I said, I looked at it, but I don't want to really point fingers or anything. But Nevertheless, we collided, and I wish it didn't happen, but definitely I would have swung high and passed them, but who knows what would have happened out of 4. So
It was heartbreaking to see the race kind of come to an end like that, because you seem to be one of the few who could defend effectively. It seemed like nobody had a way to stop some of these runs that were developing throughout the night, but on a number of occasions you were able to pull up and kind of slow down or stop somebody from being able to get enough of a run to get up and by you. That comes with great risk, though. I mean, how much were you able to practice that throughout the race, and is that level of aggression and style just kind of your way of approaching these super speedway races?
absolutely. And I kind of give that to see, I live in New York, so kind of close to the city, so I give that the city. It's called the city driving simulator for me, basically. Just like choosing lanes on the highway and stuff like that, seeing which lane is good and which lane is bad or whatever. So that was kind of like one of the things that really helped me once I started driving in real life, and it translated on iRacing. And then once it translated on iRacing, it was like, man, this is easy. And then I just started winning at all these super speedways. But nevertheless, yeah, it is of course an aggressive form of racing. And I know a few times I did cut it close with a few people. I know that one time with Josh, I think he ended up wrecking, not because of that. I think it was netcode, but I chopped down on him and he ended up spinning out. And I partially thought it was my fault because I checked him up, but yeah, you know, it's aggressive, and I feel like you have to be aggressive or else you're just gonna end up going to the back. But at this track, it was one of my first races here. I noticed it was really different. Like if you got shoved back to maybe 10th place or something like that, within the next lap coming out of turn 2, you could literally have a chance to grab the lead again, because there's so much just energy in these packs, you know. So being aggressive really just drives home everything, and it's just like it was everything. You just had to be aggressive. That's why I ended up, you know, leading the most laps but not winning. But yeah, you got to be aggressive out here. Absolutely.
Being from Staten Island, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I think you just gave me a little bit of tips when I'm ready to jump back in the sim. Now, I got to tell you, it hasn't been the year that you've wanted. If it wasn't for bad luck, you'd seemingly have no luck at all. But you got a lot of people behind you. You led 24 laps tonight. I believe that was a race high. You know, the result may not show all the positivity that tonight was able to bring, but I believe that you got enough on your side maybe to get this season back on the right track. We mentioned all the supporters that you have on a weekly basis. Who makes the positive side of nights like this possible? Who do you have backing you to try to help you get up towards that top 12 in points here?
All the fans, man. I mean, you know, everybody that comes out every week and watches NORC. I appreciate you guys. You know, I go back and watch all the streams and stuff, and try to learn and see where I went wrong, you know. And I see all the chats and stuff. I appreciate every single one of you guys, and anybody really that just comes through and watches any streams or anything to do with NORC. I appreciate all you guys, and yeah, hopefully we get the season turned around soon. I know next week is Iowa. I run decent there. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure. I think the week after that is the Dega Duels. So I don't know if that's true or not. From what I heard, I think it is. But if that's true, then you can definitely just write me for those 2 wins, because I'm definitely winning one of those races this year. But yeah, like I said, I just got to thank everybody. Team TCB, Sean and Cody Miller, you know, these guys really motivate me every week, even though we don't finish every week. My mom, everybody that watches, really, I know I said that before, but everybody, my family, my girlfriend, and all that watch, I appreciate all of you guys.
And we appreciate you. I got to tell you, it's got to be tough here to have such an incredible card, incredible night, and not have it end the way in which the story should have been written to do so. And for you to stick around and talk to us and address all those for supporting you, it truly means a lot. And we appreciate, buddy. And we hope for brighter days ahead. We're with you. We believe it's coming, whether it be Iowa, Nashville, or the Talladega Duels. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing you in that car running up towards the front here. And hopefully we'll be talking to you in Victory Lane over the next couple weeks.
Absolutely. I feel it, man. Now you say Nashville, I think I'll be in Victory Lane there, so we'll see what happens. Yeehaw!
We're looking forward to it. TCB, congrats on a great night, even though it wasn't the result you were looking for, bud. We'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
And again, that is Tyrell Baker, who unofficially, Andrew, maybe you got the box score in front of you. I believe 24 laps led. That may be the high for the race here, adding to that impressive stat you presented us earlier. And again, props to him for sticking around and talking to us. I'm not too sure that I would have been that friendly if I had what I thought was to be the dominating car and have it just slip away there with half a lap to go. But that's what makes this series so incredibly fun. It's personalities and people like that, and like our winner, Ashley Molyneux, who gave an exceptional Victory Lane interview there. And what a story to take out of this amazing night.
I think certainly in DCB's position, it's very, very mature and cool of him to sit down and talk about it in such a calm way as well. You can tell he's definitely dejected a little bit. There we go. But I do got to say, I think maybe 3 more laps led, and he could have been a surefire lock for that win, maybe 27 back-to-back. That would have been kind of cool. That would have been kind of cool in the numbers department anyways if he had won 27 and won again. But tons of laps led. I totally get it for Tyrell Baker to feel a bit down about losing that one. Again, so good tonight. So good on all super speedways here in the NORC iRacing series, but it was all Ashley Molyneux up front. We take a look now at the currently unofficial race results as Will Klein comes across just over 1/2 tenth back of Ashley Molyneux for the race win. David Schutt takes third. He won the NORC Indy 500 1 week ago. It's so cool to see him back up there. I know some drivers feel a bit strongly about the way tonight went and that incident that he had into turn number 1 with Cole Freilich, but he takes third regardless by 1/1000th of a second over Chad Oxendine. Spencer Ray checks in at 5th, Brett Pancari in 6th. Look at that run for Aaron Smith. Maybe not quite up to a top 5 where he would have wanted, but still top 7. Sheldon Lockie there in 8th. That's big. Jared Darling grabs the top 10 and TCB in 10th.
Now we get to a couple of drivers who had some problems there late in the going. Scott Shire really didn't call his name a lot today. Very consistent and clean night for Shire, who was one of the last cars to make it in that lead pack to the checkered flag. And Zoltan Herzeg, who went flipping across the line, still finished on the lead lap, 2.3 seconds behind the leaders. Going to be a good points night for him in comparison to Daniel Falkingham, but with Schutt, Oxendine and company finishing up ahead of him, it's going to be fun to see how the points shake out if these results do end up official. Spencer Owens leading halfway home on the back straightaway, ends up getting tagged, spinning around, last car on the lead lap in 13th. Cody Miller also leading out of turn 4 with that massive crash, did not make it to the line for 14th, and Justin Ford with a very quiet night to have a top 15 finish. Great run for Justin in that 00. Taylor Frey was 21st. Nicholas Caressel 3 laps down in the 17th spot. Check that. Taylor Frey to 21 was in 16th. Caressel 17th. My mistake. Hayes Booth, after the opening lap crash, stuck with it all night long, finished 18th. Zach Lindgren was involved in the first 3 cautions, got through the first 2 of them without major incident. Third one, though, did him in. He ends up in 19th spot. And Josh Robin, with that interesting incident down in turn number 3 after leading so much the early going in this race, has to settle for a 20th place finish, 8 laps in arrears.
The back 9 cars of 29 look like this. Sean Williams there in 21st. He was still running at the end, but 9 laps down. Howie Briss ends up not finishing this one, 15 laps down in 22nd. You see Daniel Falkingham after his massive incident in turn 1. He's right there with him. Matt Hummel, he ends up 24th. Cole Freilich credited with 25th. Elijah Gracia in 26th. John Barry credited with 27th. And Ari Adi in 28th. Tommy Gossett brings up the rear, 29th position, 65 laps down, completed just 2 of the 67 this evening from the iRacing.com Super Speedway. It was a fun one this evening, I gotta say. I was a bit unsure of what to expect when I saw this track go on the schedule over places like New Hampshire, for example, but boy, I'm glad it was on the schedule. I hope this is on the schedule for seasons to come. It was a wild one, for sure. And you can see, only 4 cautions. That fits right in with most NORC Super Speedway races, but 36 lead changes sets it up there as some of the best races that we've ever had in the NORC iRacing series on Super Speedways. A hyper speedway, you could call it here, for the iRacing Super Speedway, and I think it belongs.
One of the things that I say on a weekly basis I love about this NORC calendar is the diversity in the schedule, and this really is a super speedway or hyper speedway in a league of its own. The speeds that we saw, you mentioned tonight, we turned the fastest lap ever in a Newark iRacing event at over 243 miles per hour. I mean, that is incredible. This is the one and only track that these drivers are going to be faced with these conditions, and it truly adds another layer and another element as to why this series is in, no pun intended, a league of its own. And after watching the action, it was so hard to keep up with it. 36 lead changes in a 67-lap event. I don't know about you, Andrew, but keeping up with all the action, it was a little bit exhausting from the spectator standpoint. I can't imagine how some of these drivers feel after the amount of focus and precision they had to have on their side to survive through this style of a race. And the good news is we're going from this one extreme to a short track at Iowa 1 week from tonight. I mean, I love this series for this reason. It gives you literally a little bit of everything, and that's why it is a true testament to who is the best of the best when all's said and done. And I love the schedule. I love this race. I'm with you. I hope it remains on the calendar for years to come. We got a lot of good stuff to look forward to, including back-to-back short track events in both Iowa and Nashville.
Absolutely. I think you've got to look at the iRacing Super Speedway now as a fixture on the schedule. I know some drivers will love it, some drivers will hate it, absolutely, but I think it goes further towards diversifying the schedule, much like you have so much diversity in so many ways throughout the NORC iRacing Series field. There's so much to love about NORC, and I think this certainly adds to it. Obviously, NORC has a very interesting past on super speedways. I don't care who you are, man. That was fun. And you say it was exhausting. Boy, was it ever. I don't know how we were on the edge of our seats so long. I was talking to you in the break. Maybe we could have added, I don't know, 10, 15 laps. Could have been nice for a little more strategy, but it was cool to have that sprint element. So much action shoved into such a short race once these guys got green flag racing. Even though we had that initial incident to begin things, it was fantastic. This was a fantastic race. We talk about Iowa in 1 week's time, that 7/8 mile. So, you know what? We have a very unique track distance, track length here at 3 miles for the iRacing Super Speedway down to a 7/8 mile in Iowa. That's going to change things up as we head up to Newton next week. Nashville's going to be fun. Auto Club. So much to look forward to this season. So much to be happy about and so much to get excited for. Cannot wait to see how it all pans out. Got to thank our partners, though, here at Pit Stop TV. Before we go anywhere this evening, they stick by us, well, through and through. And I got to stick by them as well, by all means, by Tucson Sound Art. You know what? We had a bit of a gathering. We had some friends over for the Coke 600 weekend this past weekend here in North Carolina. And when we were sitting out in the living room, we wanted some music to play while playing a card game. You want to know how I played it? Well, my Tucson Sound Art device. That's how we listen to some music. That's how we listen to our tunes, and it looks great too. That's the fantastic thing about it. Even when you're sitting there looking at your cards, you can look over and see a fantastic picture, in this case, of David Levine racing at Charlotte Motor Speedway, winning last year in the Lucky Dog Racing League. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. You get to look up at whatever moment of your life that feels special to you, and you get to hear fantastic songs as well. Whatever you want to play, obviously. Sounds great, looks great. By all means, hit up Tucson Sound Art at TucsonSoundArt.com and use promo code PitStopTV for 10% off of your order today. We're also going to give a big shout out to Race Pace Setups, providing amazing GT3, mostly GT racing setups to anybody on the iRacing.com sim, but also coming in as a big setup builder for series like Cross Series League Racing that we had coverage of this past season. Race Pace Setups is a place to go if you want to pick up pace in GT3 fields today. A big shout out as well, of course, goes out to Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine, where you deserve the best care that money can buy. We are into June. We are into the summer months. And if you aren't looking great just yet, by all means, check them out. PermanentMakeupInMaine.com. You want to look your best for the summer. You want to look great, and they can help you do so. A big shout out to Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV, as well as BAM Racing Videos by a race fan for the racing community. Eric, it was a fun one this evening, but as with all great things, it must come to an end of this evening, and that will do it from the iRacing Super Speedway. Happy to have had you all here tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Keep up with all of our upcoming broadcasts here on Pit Stop TV. Here you see the next 3. Tomorrow night, Wednesday, we've got the BRP Asphalt Modified Tour from the Concord Speedway, now defunct. Boy, I can't wait for that one. I love that little triangle down in Concord, North Carolina. Wish it was still around. It's going to be fun with those mods tomorrow night. Then, on Monday evening, we've got the BRP Dirt Late Models, the Pro Late Models. They had a fun one last night at Weed Sport. See how they shape up at Eldora in 1 week next Monday evening before we take you here at the NORC iRacing Series up to Newton, Iowa for the Iowa Speedway. That will be fun in 1 week's time. Before we go, make sure to follow us on all of our social platforms. You see the links in front of you. Facebook.com/PitStopTV, Twitter.com/PitStopTV_, Instagram.com/Pit_Stop_TV. Conveniently, Twitch is the same. It's Twitch.tv/Pit_Stop_TV, and YouTube.com/C/PitStopTV1. For all of Pit Stop TV this evening, Eric Brennan alongside on the call, Emerson Arden on our social media coverage tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Adrian Cardinale IV, and we will see you next time.